Okay, here's another very short story. It's really for children. It's called The Frog, and here's a disclaimer. No part of this publication may be reproduced, printed, copied, Xeroxed, plagiarized, stored in any retrieval device, or transmitted in any form or by any means electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise without express written permission of the publisher. This means you. We know where you are, we know where you live, we're not kidding. For permission granted to use any of the accounts in this book, write to Never Made a Dime Publishing, 4444 Elkhorn Place, Earlville, Illinois, 60999. All rights are reserved by Never Made a Dime Publishing. Dedicated to frogs everywhere. We can only imagine what you do when we are not looking. A little boy, not so unlike many little boys, was having a little trouble at school. It seemed that he, unlike most of his classmates, could not sing at all, not even a little bit. He tried and tried, but whenever he uttered a sound, it wasn't even close to the note he was supposed to be on. His classmates would laugh and laugh at him. The teacher would even admit out loud that the little boy was a terrible singer. One day the laughing got so bad, the little boy put his head on his desk and began to cry. The teacher did what she could to quiet the children down and to get them to stop, which they eventually did. The damage was done, though. The little boy refused to join in anymore. Each day the children would begin class by singing without the little boy. He just sat at his desk quietly and waiting for the singing time to be over. It seemed that his teacher and his classmates were glad that he kept quiet. They never invited him to join back in. One day the little boy was walking home from school, another day in which his classmates sang without him. He walked down the same road he had walked down hundreds of times, right past the little pond. Today, for some reason, he heard a frog singing louder than he had ever heard before. "I don't believe I've ever seen you before," said the little boy. "Where did you come from?" The frog just looked at him and began making loud noises that frogs make. Redeep, redeep. "Where did you come from?" asked the little boy again. "I would have remembered you." "Oh, you think so? You think you would have remembered me?" "Who said that?" asked the little boy. "I said that," returned the voice. The little boy swirled around, trying to see who was speaking. He could see no one. "Who could have said that?" said the little boy, rather quietly, as if he was almost asking himself the question. "Who is speaking to me?" he asked again. "Well, I am down here," said the frog. "Who did you think it was?" he continued. "Wait a minute," said the little boy. "Frogs don't talk." "Who said so?" asked the frog, rather indignantly. "Well, they just don't," replied the little boy, a little defensively. "They just don't, that's all," he continued. "Well, I do," said the frog, "and rather well, if I do say so myself," he concluded. "I must be dreaming," said the little boy. "No, you're not," said the frog. "I can sing, too." "No, you can't," said the little boy. "That's impossible. A singing frog?" "Well, why, I can speak, can't I?" replied the frog. "If I can speak, and rather well, as I mentioned before, why would it seem so impossible that I might just be a very good singer?" "Well, I don't know," said the little boy. It just seems so unusual, that's all. Well, I am a rather special frog, you see, he said. A magic frog, if you will. I would be glad to do something for you if you would do something for me. A simple trade of wishes, we could call it. The frog began to sing the most beautiful song in the most beautiful voice the little boy had ever heard. It flowed throughout the valley like nothing the little boy had ever heard. He could have listened all day, but it was getting late, and he knew his mother and father would be waiting supper for him. You could do me a great favor, said the little boy. I could use your remarkable voice in my school tomorrow. You could? Questioned the frog. I would be more than happy to help you. You see, I do love to sing. Done and done, said the little boy, as he picked up the frog and gently placed him in his shirt breast pocket. Are you comfortable? Asked the little boy. I'm not squishing you, am I? He asked. Oh, no, replied the frog. It's rather comfortable and warm. As a matter of fact, he replied. Let's be off, said the frog. The little boy hurried home, being careful not to hurt the frog or bounce him out of his pocket. Once home, he hurried upstairs to a room and prepared a little temporary home for the frog in a large bowl filled with some pebbles, sand, and some water. Will this be all right? Asked the little boy. This will be just fine, answered the frog. Rather spiffy accommodations, much cleaner than I'm used to, you know. The pond never gets cleaned up. This will be great. Now go downstairs and eat your supper. You probably have homework for tomorrow, and we do have a rather big day tomorrow. Yes, we do, said the little boy with a big grin on his face. Tomorrow will be an unbelievable day. The next day the little boy got up, brushed his teeth, got dressed faster than he'd ever done before, and quickly ate his breakfast. He went back upstairs and carefully placed the frog in his shirt breast pocket and dashed off to school. When he arrived, he quickly sat down on his assigned seat and turned in his homework just as the teacher had asked. The teacher had decided that the first thing this morning would be singing class. The children began to look at the little boy as the music began to play. The frog looked at the little boy and said, You just mouth the words. Don't make any sounds. I'll do the rest. The little boy winked at the frog, and the frog winked back. The class began to sing, but as they did, the most glorious sound began filling the room. The children began to look around the room to find out who was singing, but they and the teacher noticed that it seemed to be coming from the little boy, the same little boy who could not sing at all. They were all so surprised that they stopped singing out of shock and amazement. Even the teacher stopped waving her hands like most band leaders do. She just stood there with her mouth almost dropping to the floor. The frog kept singing the most beautiful song, and the little boy kept moving his mouth to the music without really making a sound. He and the frog were quite a team, to say the least. All the children and the teacher began clapping, whistling, hooting and hollering, and cheering for the little boy who couldn't sing. The little boy looked in his pocket, and he gave the frog a wink. The frog winked back, but kept on singing in his most beautiful voice. The little boy and the frog were a great team. The frog had done the little boy a great favor. As the frog kept singing and the little boy kept mouthing the words, the little boy began to wonder. I knew what the frog could do for me the moment I heard him sing, but I sure don't have any idea what I could do for a frog, especially a magic frog like this one. What could I do for him that he couldn't do for himself, he wondered. The little boy decided that he was not going to worry about that right now. His classmates and his teacher thought he was the most beautiful singer in the world. Now was no time to worry about the frog's wish. There would be time enough for that later.